The shadow of forgotten knowledge is long and cold, a chilling reminder that the course of human history often turns not on monumental battles or grand decisions, but on a single moment of silence, a misplaced decimal, or a secret held by a man who simply ceased to be imagined, the most profound equation in the world, one capable of unlocking limitless energy or perfect predictive power, one that could render complex systems entirely transparent, and then imagine that solution confirmed, finalized, written down only to dissolve into the ether, leaving behind merely the echo of its genius. We're not talking about hypothetical science fiction. We're discussing a real void, a tangible absence that cost nations trillions of dollars and arguably defined the technological limitations of the late 20th century. This is the story of Dr. Elias Thorne and the ultimate betrayal, not by an enemy, but by time itself. The year was 1968. The world was a high-tension wire stretched taut between two ideologies. The race for military supremacy was inextricably linked to the race for computational dominance and energy independence. The air in academic circles was thick with cigarette smoke, and the desperate pursuit of the next great leap forward. Cities were sprawling rapidly, consuming resources that the current infrastructure could barely sustain, and the underlying complexity of global finance was beginning to outpace human ability to model it. Effectively, scientists dreamed of a true universal simulator, a way to project future outcomes with absolute certainty, eliminating the terrible cost of guesswork and geopolitical miscalculation. Thorne, a mathematician of terrifying precision and unsettling solitude, worked deep within this pressurized environment, operating out of a small, heavily secured research wing on the outskirts of Boston. His project, known only by its cryptic designation Project Chimera, sought to solve a particular class of differential equations related to chaotic system dynamics, essentially finding the pattern within the storm. The problem had been labeled impossible by 3 generations of physicists, requiring computational capacity that simply did not exist. Yet Thorne believed the elegant answer lay not in brute force, but in theoretical purity, a forgotten symmetry in the numbers. Life around Thorne was methodical, almost monastic. His colleagues respected his brilliance but feared his obsessive withdrawal. His only real interaction was with the numbers themselves, pages upon pages, filled with notations that looked like the handwriting of a god scribbling the blueprints for the universe. He lived for the moment of clarity, the intellectual rapture, when the seemingly unsolvable system finally yielded its secret. And that moment arrived on a Tuesday morning shrouded in a persistent New England rain, the kind of weather that muffles the world and turns the light gray. Thorne had been working continuously for 72 hours, subsisting on black coffee and the sheer kinetic energy of impending discovery. He sat hunched over a large slate blackboard where the final synthesis was taking shape, a sequence of recursive variables that elegantly collapsed the chaos into order. His breath hitched. He checked the derivation 3 times, his hand shaking slightly as he applied the final boundary condition. The equation balanced perfectly the solution to the predictive synthesis problem. The EPS was confirmed. It was stunningly simple once revealed, a single page of notation that summarized decades of global frustration. Thorne felt the immense gravity of the moment, realizing he held the key to infinite efficiency, perhaps even unlimited controlled power. He meticulously transcribed the final sequence onto a single sheet of heavy parchment, intending to deliver it personally to the project director at dawn. He then made a rough draft copy on a separate notepad, just in case. A standard protocol, but the original, the polished, perfect proof that was the true artifact. He placed the parchment inside a manila envelope, sealed it, and set it next to his locked briefcase. He took a sip of his now cold coffee, looked at his work one last time, a faint smile touching his lips. Then, according to the subsequent frantic government reports, Dr. Elias Thorne vanished without a sound. His disappearance was not violent. There was no struggle, no broken window, no blood, no note of despair. The door to his lab remained locked from the inside. The rough draft copy of the equation was still there, incomprehensible to anyone without Thorne's prior 3 years of work to contextualize that the briefcase remained locked. But the critical element, the sealed manila envelope containing the definitive solved equation of predictive synthesis, was gone, vanished into thin air. The only clue, if one could call it, that was the single sheet of parchment that was missing from the desk. Everything else was meticulously in place. The scene spoke not of hurried escape or a violent abduction, but of an instantaneous and impossibly clean removal. Weeks bled into months as the government launched one of the most intense and secretive manhunts in history. They scoured the area, interrogated every colleague, investigated every foreign intelligence agency, but found nothing, no trace of Thorne, no trace of the parchment. The official conclusion, a terrifying and unsatisfying reality, was that the solution existed, but the proof was lost forever. The immediate consequences were devastating. Project Chimera collapsed, the funding ceased, because without Thorne or the final proof, no one could replicate the path to the solution. The rough copy was useless, a collection of numbers without the key context. The scientific community divided. Some believed Thorne suffered a nervous breakdown, destroying the proof and fleeing into anonymity. Others whispered of espionage, claiming a rival power had somehow executed the perfect extraction of man and mathematics, leaving no forensic trace. A third faction, mostly the high-ranking officials who understood the true nature of the equation, feared something far darker, that Thorne had crossed a threshold of knowledge that demanded a price outside the realm of human understanding. The ripple effect began almost instantly. The search consumed enormous military and intelligence resources, diverting critical attention and funding away from other promising energy and defense projects. The vacuum left by the lost EPS solution meant that global power infrastructure had to continue relying on less efficient, unstable sources. The development of advanced computational modeling, which relied heavily on the principles Thorne had solved, stalled for decades. The necessary breakthrough in fluid dynamics and material science that the EPS would have catalyzed simply did not materialize. The world continued to muddle through using analog solutions for digital problems. The true tragedy of Thorne's absence was a lost future, the history that never happened. Consider the massive global economic crises that unfolded in the 1970s, the energy shortages that crippled industrial output and fueled devastating conflicts. Many historians point to policy failures, but the underlying reality was a systemic inability to accurately predict supply chain bottlenecks and resource depletion. Had the predictive capabilities of the Thorne equation been available, those bottlenecks could have been preempted. The financial cost is incalculable. The estimated delay in achieving true energy efficiency alone resulting from the loss of the EPS solution has been estimated by later analysts to be at least 35 years. 35 years of burning inefficient fuels, 35 years of geopolitical instability dictated by finite resources, 35 years during which conflicts broke out, where predictive certainty could have fostered peace. The death toll tied indirectly to this lost equation is harder to quantify, but no less real. Every military conflict fought with outdated targeting systems, every environmental disaster resulting from delayed alternative energy adoption, every market crash that wiped out life savings because the early warning systems were insufficient, they all bear the silent weight of a missing piece of parchment. Dr. Thorne solved the equation that could have streamlined the entire world, yet, because of one clean, inexplicable moment of disappearance, humanity was forced to walk the long, hard road, often choosing the most expensive and bloody paths. It is staggering to contemplate how close the world came to perfect foresight, how near we were to escaping the endless cycle of surprise and reaction. One man, one equation, one moment of silence, and the trajectory of everything shifted. Forever we live today in a world that is still catching up to the theoretical elegance. Thorne discovered a world still grappling with chaotic systems that we are only now starting to model with limited success, but always operating under the shadow of the question. What if he had simply waited an hour? What if he had emailed the solution instead of transcribing it onto a single fragile sheet of paper? The butterfly effect is rarely a dramatic crash. It is often a ghost in the data, a whisper in an empty room, a moment of absence that snowballs into global consequence. Think about that the next time you overlook a small detail, the sheer weight of what could have been rests on the lost works of Dr. Elias Thorne, the greatest intellectual treasure that the world knew existed but could never possess. If you find these tales of history's dark corners and lost possibilities compelling, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We search the archives for the true moments when fate held its breath and the world changed on a knife edge. Join us again next time as we dive deeper into the mysteries that define our reality, a reality shaped by the things we never knew we missed.